Welcome to this video where we will delve into Eritrea's colonial history with Italy, and the various countries and empires that have shaped what Eritrea is today. To give you a better understanding of where Eritrea is, it is situated on the Horn of Africa, along the Red Sea. Eritrea is bordered by Sudan, Ethiopia, and Djibouti. It is home to 9 officially recognized ethnic groups, and they are Afar, Belen, Hererab, Kunama, Nara, Rashaida, Saho, Tigre, and Tigrinya. Eritrea's capital is Asmara, which is known for its Italian colonial buildings and architecture and culture. It even has Italian cars that were left over from the colonial period that still exist, along with remnants of Italian culinary influences. In the 19th century, Italy established Eritrea as a colony, leaving an undeniable mark on its urban landscape and its culture. However, Eritrea's history is not solely Italian. It endured periods of colonization by Britain, Egypt, and even Ethiopia. It was a long struggle to its eventual independence in May 24, 1991. But to truly understand Eritrea today, we must journey back through time and acknowledge the diverse arrays of empires and nations that have played a role in shaping its identity, in particular Italy. Join me as I uncover the layers of history that make Eritrea the nation it is today. To begin, in the late 19th century, the scramble for Africa was in full swing. European powers like Britain, France, Germany, Belgium, Spain, Portugal, and Italy were driven by a desire for territory, resources, and influence, and they were eagerly staking their claims across the continent of Africa. A pivotal moment came in 1869 with the opening of the Suez Canal. This canal made it easy for ships to sail between the Red Sea and the Mediterranean, making Africa more accessible than ever and revolutionizing trade and transportation between Europe and Asia. Suddenly, the Horn of Africa became the strategic hotspot, drawing the attention of Italy. One Italian man, Giuseppe Sapito, saw this as a big opportunity when the Red Sea became easier to reach after the Suez Canal. From 1869 to 1880, he began setting up a port in the town of Assab. This was on the coastline of what is now known as Eritrea, but then it was called Majdi Barhi, where Italian ships could refuel and stop, and this helped Italy get a foothold in the area and start expanding from there. After Italy purchased the port in Assab, they started to gradually manage to move up the coast and inland into what was then Abyssinia, but now known as Ethiopia. And the Emperor of Ethiopia at the time, Johannes IV, was not happy about this. This was because Italy was advancing into Ethiopia's territory, but when he passed away in 1889, it opened the door for Italy to seize control of a lot of the highlands that they wanted, and they even took over Asmara, which was pretty far from the coast. The successor of Johannes was Menelik II, who was much more accepting and had a different approach to dealing with the Italians, along the coast and in the region. He formed an alliance to his advantage, and in exchange for modern weaponry, he signed the Treaty of Wuchale on May 2, 1889. This treaty granted Italy control over territories in the northern Ethiopia around the cities of Keren, Massawa, Asmara, and surrounding areas of the coastline. Now, the following year, Italy declared Eritrea as a colony on January 1st of 1890, after signing the Treaty of Wuchale. This is also where they gave it the name Eritrea, which comes from the Greek word erythros, meaning red, in reference to the Red Sea. The Treaty of Wuchale, signed by Menelik with Italy, essentially gave Eritrea to Italy. However, Menelik was unaware that the treaty attempted to trick him and sign over Ethiopia as well. Soon, Europe recognized Ethiopia as an Italian protectorate, and Menelik discovered this deception later, but he remained patient, focusing on unifying Ethiopia. Italy's attempt to claim Ethiopia led to the Battle of Adwa, where Menelik's army eventually defeated the Italians, preventing them from colonizing Ethiopia. It's also important to note that although this was a battle between Italy and Ethiopia, many of the soldiers on the Italian side were actually Eritrean. After this defeat for Italy in the Battle of Adwa in 1896, Ethiopia and Italy ended up signing another treaty, the Treaty of Addis Ababa. This reaffirmed Ethiopia's independence and recognized the pre-existing borders of Ethiopia and Eritrea. Now, numerous projects were implemented in Eritrea for its development, promoting many Italians to migrate to the colony and shaping a new lifestyle. Asmara flourished as roads, factories, and administrative infrastructure was constructed. Ports like Massawa and Assab underwent modernization. However, despite Eritrea becoming an Italian colony, little was done to enhance the conditions and education of the local population. Much of the development primarily served the interests of the Italian settlers. As high-ranking Italian soldiers settled in Eritrea, particularly in areas like Massawa and Asmara, many Italians chose to marry local women of Coptic faith. In the 1880s, there was no significant concern expressed about these unions, and this lack of concern reflects a more primitive understanding of race, where racial purity and boundaries were not firmly established or enforced. It wasn't until later, in 1936, when the Italians returned, that they implemented strict regulations aimed at preserving Italian racial purity. Now, fast forward to 1941, the colonization of Eritrea from Italy would come to an end, and the British would rule over Eritrea. During World War II, British and Commonwealth forces, along with Ethiopian resistance fighters, launched a campaign against Italian forces in East Africa, including Eritrea. This campaign aimed to drive out the Italian forces of East Africa and support the Ethiopian resistance against Italian occupation. In 1952, the United Nations arranged for Eritrea to join Ethiopia under a federation. This meant Eritrea had some self-governance, but was still connected to Ethiopia. However, Eritrean nationalists wanted full independence, while some in Ethiopia wanted closer ties. Even though there was rules agreed upon by the UN and both parties, Ethiopia's leader, Emperor Haile Selassie, chose to annex Eritrea completely into Ethiopia in 1962. This broke the agreements made with Eritrea and went against the UN's plan. And this would eventually lead to decades of conflict and war between Eritrea and Ethiopia. This war of independence between Eritrea and Ethiopia eventually came to an end on May 24, 1993. Now, reflecting on Eritrea's colonial history with Italy leaves me with several questions regarding its impact on the ongoing strife between Eritrea and Ethiopia, as well as within Eritrea itself. Were there lasting implications of this colonization that have left their mark on Eritrea today? Many of my relatives, including uncles, aunts, and parents, were forced to undergo military training from a young age, highlighting the lasting effects of colonialism. Italy ruled over Eritrea from the 19th century till World War II, and during then there was a strong focus on militarization. Eritreans were often recruited as soldiers for the Italian military, serving both to control the territory and to further Italy's imperial goals in the region. In conclusion, Eritrea's colonial history with Italy has left enduring impacts on its socio-political landscape. From forced militarization to ongoing conflicts with Ethiopia, the legacy of Italian colonization continues to shape Eritrea's identity today.